Homesteader family, welcome back to the journey and welcome to this edition of the Sunday Monday vlog. The title is going to sound like clickbait to you, but it's not clickbait. I'm going to get into why California is great for homesteading. A lot of you aren't going to believe me, but I'm going to go over that after I go over the weekly stuff. So, not too much got done this week. Tuesday, it did turn out beautiful. I think a high of either 76 or 77. The picture for the video was just outside of the door here with the firewood. I was able to get a pickup truck load of firewood cut up. I brought that over here to the restaurant, so that gets me some firewood for when the weather gets ready to change. Went to pick up propane. Propane is now over $4 a gallon. Closer to like $4.50 a gallon, and winter prices are getting ready to go up, so it's going to go even higher. Now, I'm not talking when you have a 1,000-gallon tank. I'm talking the small tanks that you take in. It was $42 and some change for a 40-pound tank. 40-pound tank holds like 9.2 gallons. So you do the math, it's pretty expensive. So for those of you that are needing propane, I highly recommend you get it before winter gets here and before they change their prices, as they said prices were getting ready to go up next month, September. So August normally is your last month to get in on the propane. Wednesday was hot. Weather people lied. It was supposed to be Tuesday, Wednesday of nice weather, and Wednesday was up in the 90s. Today, we're under extreme heat warning. I've got a massive headache right now. Took a picture. I posted it on Facebook, posted it on YouTube. It was 101. I didn't click it earlier when I looked. The temperature was 124 real feel. It was 102 the real temperature. And then when I clicked back on it, it was 101 and down to 121. So still really hot. I've got massive headache from that. The building's not that cool. It's like I've showed you. No insulation in the walls, small AC units, a little bit hot in here. And on top of that, I just made coffee, but that's because I have headaches, so I'm hoping the caffeine kicks in. I also took some ibuprofen. My neck and my back's a little messed up as well. So that's pretty much this week. Just taking care of animals, getting them fed, hauling water. I've got the water trailer out front right now. I'll fill up a load tomorrow morning because I just dropped off water last night. So they had enough to get them through today, and then I'll get the nice cold fresh water tomorrow when I head over there to feed them and everything else. I also posted about the housing plans. I went and got the graph paper, but I did dot paper instead. Took a couple different tries doing that, so I've had a lot of people wondering and been asking me over time my house plans, and like one of my wonderful YouTube subscribers tells me I should just have dry erase boards because I change mine all the time. And what do I have up here? I have tons and tons and tons of dry erase boards. This is one stack. I've got other stacks as well. I also have smaller stacks, all different dry erase boards. However, dry erase board is not what I'm going after. I've got it in my mind. It's hard to get it from dry erase boards, or from my mind to dry erase boards. It was hard to get it on graph paper. I went through probably half the book of pages, cutting it down with one of the cutters that my grandfather had. I kept a bunch of his office stuff, and that came in handy because I needed to make the pages longer. I wanted to graph it so I have an idea for the footprint on what I need per square feet. Instead of just guessing the numbers, I could actually see it physically, because we all know you guys didn't get to see the journey of me building the house, which sucks because now I don't get to look back over that journey of my life because I didn't have my channel at the time. but I just did it. You know, the ideas come in my head and I go with it. So this is a rough idea, but basically what I'm going after. So I'm going to show you guys the plans, what I have. It's a very basic for any of you that do blueprinting and things like that. This is just, like I said, the rough idea for what's in my head. So it's going to be 66 feet long by 40 foot wide. And that is the plan right there. And then let me hold this like this. So these green tubes right here, I've got 2 on each side. Of course, the paper's not long enough because I didn't measure the paper out. I just started drawing once again. Because I'm not precise, as we all know. If it's good enough, it's good enough. But these are going to be 20-foot culverts, 12 inches. So only a foot wide culvert, 20 foot long. I'm going to have an insulation board that's going to go over top the pipe going across once I cover the pipes with dirt. This is on the outside of the house, on the east and west side of the house, or however it comes across on the page. Then on top of the insulation boards, which are going to be the blue foam hard insulation boards, then I'm going to do another 6 feet of dirt on top. That's going to go through these walls. The walls are 3 foot thick. It's going to be the gabion basket style like I talked about, since I have all the rock on the Homestead. The blue line is the insulation that I'm putting in the middle of the wall. So I'm going to have mass outside and mass inside. So on the inside, when it's cooler, all that rock going to the insulation will stay cool like a chest freezer or a cooler. And then when I heat the house with the wood stove, all the rock inside, that foot and a half, is going to heat up and will radiate. So we'll take less cooling, less heating. So my idea for the passive solar is geothermal. So the air is going to come through the pipe here, underneath 8 feet of dirt, come into the house in this room, come into the house in this room, this room, this room, and then my roof, let's see, this might actually work out better. I was going to show you the roof I did. Let's see. So the roof is going like this. It's going to have a peak at the center, and it's going to come down. So the cold air is coming in at the floor. It's hot air rises, comes up to this peak. At the peak on this side, where these front doors and the back door, there's going to be a vent at the very top of the peaks, and the hot air is going to go out. These are going to be French doors. So this is over 6 feet wide for here, 6 feet wide there. And then, like I said, with the roof going up like this, I'm going to have all glass on both sides of the door here and here. Now, you might be wondering what all the other walls are inside. So what I want is, in case a tornado or something happens, all of this is glass, all of this is glass. So a tornado can blow right through. This is going to be the kitchen, sitting area, or like dining area, and a pool table. Then I'm going to have a bedroom in one of these, laundry room and all that, pantry, another bedroom, bathroom. I have that all figured in my head. So things are going to change inside these rooms. That's why I didn't do anything. But you see there's a 3 foot rock wall all the way around. 3 foot rock wall there, 3 foot rock wall there. These are doorways. And then I'm going to go down to a 2 foot rock wall, because I already have a 3 foot all the way around. So that way, if the house ever gets hit by a tornado, I'm basically in like a fortified bunker. So that gives you guys the idea, for those of you that have been wanting to see something on the house, what I was going to do. I know a lot of people have been asking if I was still going to do the castle idea. I'm not doing the castle idea because wells are extremely expensive here. They want like $25,000 to $30,000, and that was quoted in 2020 before everything's gone up. So I'm sure it's a lot more expensive than that. For those of you that have been following the journey since the beginning, when I was at my house on the 2.5 acres, I had those big cisterns on the driveway, and I was doing the rain catchment. I'm going to do that here, and having a massive roof like that, I mean, that's a lot of distance both ways. The house is 40 foot wide, so it's going to probably be about 50 foot wide roof, and then, you know, the peak's going to be way more than 66 feet in total. So I'm going to do a rain catchment system. Still thinking about possibly doing electric. I'm not sure. It's going to be a lot of money. All depends on how everything pans out with Colorado, pans out with the rental house I'm trying to sell, and pans out on when I sell the restaurant, on what all I do. Right now, I am looking at doing a home generator with a big battery bank, and then eventually do the solar. A lot of people say just do the solar, don't do the generator. But out here in Arkansas, we have a lot more cloudy days than Colorado. So it would take a whole lot more solar, and you need a generator anyhow. So if I don't do the solar, then I don't have to worry about the cost of money on the panels, all the wiring, all that type of stuff. I can focus the money on a battery bank and use a home generator, which can produce a whole lot more power than just small standby generators, and be able to produce more power to charge the batteries at a faster rate. Now, Steve's going to figure all that stuff out because he's the solar guy, and luckily he moved here, so I got him to help out. I appreciate it, George. I'm sure Jesus loves you too, my friend. So that, like I said, that's the housing plan. If you want to go back and look at that, you can see it. Pause the video later and check in on that. I had to go Walmart last night, and I want to throw this out there. Measuring cups and tools. I have a bunch of these. They're in my shed that's filled with all the mice droppings and everything else. And they're plastic. I had a couple plastic ones here. I've had boxes and boxes stacked on top of each other like you've seen behind the shelving unit. And some of them are smushed or they split because they're old. So I made a comment a couple times about sending all our money over to another country. And I want to talk about that for a second before I get into the whole homesteading thing in California. So they're metal, heavy duty. They're going to last a lot longer. They were only like, I want to say like $1.80 something more than the plastic stuff from China. And everybody that watches this video most likely has seen the ads for Temu, because it's all over YouTube. That's all you see now. It's Temu this, Temu that. Super cheap, cheaper than Amazon, because why buy stuff made Amazon in America, even though a lot of the stuff from Amazon does come from overseas. There are stuff here in the States. But we're sending all our money over there. And people don't understand why businesses are closing down. People don't understand why people are getting laid off. Why people are losing their houses, losing their vehicles. It's because we're not doing this. We're not buying higher quality things that last. We just constantly buy, and throw away. You got a cracked plastic spoon, throw it away. This metal spoon, that can last my entire lifetime. I only have to buy it one time for $1.86 more than the plastic ones. By us doing that for Temu and all these different things, buying everything out of China, yes, we're saving a lot of money, but the quality of the stuff is not what it used to be. Our great-grandparents, our grandparents had quality things made of cast iron. Cast iron used to be toys. You don't see a lot of toys from 20 years ago because they've all fallen apart or broken or been trashed. Cast iron toys, they last a long time. Metal tools, measuring spoons, things like that, if we spend our money here in the States, if we spend our money here in our communities, which like last Sunday, Monday vlog I talked about, is it's hard to get away from, I gotta have new. You probably could go find, I could probably go find these at the thrift store and save more money. But if we keep spending our money out of our country, out of our communities, if we have communities left like I do, luckily, that's why. Because all the money is going to another country, it's going to another community, it's going to another population, and our population is not seeing that money flow in. When that money doesn't flow in, we have to reduce staff, we have to reduce products, we have to increase prices to make do. Of course, our mortgages keep going up and things like that. So I just want to throw that out there. If you need to buy something, if you have to spend an extra couple dollars to make sure it's something that's sturdy, that's going to last, I highly recommend it. It will save you in the long run. The plastic ones that I had, so some of them are smushed and broke, so they're no good. So that means I have to go buy another one. They're $3 something at Walmart for the plastic ones. These were like $5.69 or something. $5.89 something. It was only like $2 difference, or less than $2 difference. So already I got to buy another set of plastic ones, so I'm already more expensive than the metal ones. So just a forethought for you guys to think about, to consider, especially now when our money means so much because everything is going up in cost. You might want to consider buying things that last you a lifetime, not something that's only going to last you a few years and then you have to buy again, like the appliances, where our great-grandparents passed down the refrigerators and freezers to our grandparents and so on and so forth, and we threw them away because they were old. We were worried about the new, the look, so on and so forth. Now, hopping into the whole California thing. A lot of people are going to think that that was a clickbait title, that the best place to homestay is California. And it's not clickbait, and it's true. Now, it's true in a way you might not look at it, but if you go on YouTube and you look up homesteading in California, you will find a million channels. If you look up homesteading in Texas, you'll find a million channels. Alaska, Arkansas, Maine, New Hampshire, Florida, wherever. Anywhere around the world, there are channels homesteading. So those people that are homesteading in California think that's the best place in the world to homestead. And it may be if you like what California has to offer. So I can come on here and I can say Arkansas is the best place and you should move to Arkansas. You should not move to Arkansas just because I moved to Arkansas. You should not move to Arkansas because I talk about how great Arkansas is, because you might want California. You might want Texas. You might want Alaska. These are things you've got to figure out and consider on your own. And watching all these channels that talk about this is the best state to homestead, that's the best state to homestead. And they give you several different things. They give you the taxes, they give you the cost, yada, yada, yada. And you think that's the 5 places I need to look at. I can tell you a lot of those places on those lists, Arkansas was never one of them. I'm loving Arkansas. Arkansas provides me what I want, what I need. Depends on the weather. You know, I'm not keen on 121 degree days, but last year we had 121 degree days. So it's something I've got to get used to. So if you're looking at homesteading and you're trying to find the best place to homestead, you need to either get in your car, which I don't recommend. I recommend renting a vehicle. It's going to be more expensive, but any research, any due diligence, you know, that's why they say college is so expensive. You have to spend all that money to go out and find out, the best education, and that costs money. Same thing with researching and doing your due diligence for looking at homesteads. Running a vehicle, going and putting boots on the ground, going to whatever state you're thinking about. Look at the community, get a hotel room for a couple nights, feel out people, go to restaurants, yada, yada, yada. Do your research on all that. Colorado is a good place to homestead. Yes, Robert, in a way. And we know that I was in Colorado. I homesteaded. I enjoyed Colorado until I moved to another part of Colorado, and the community was horrible. However, now that I've been to Arkansas, I can say Colorado is not my favorite place to homestead. I do miss the dry weather. I do miss not having ticks and the lack of flies and the quietness to a point. However, property taxes in Colorado have skyrocketed. The last time I had to pay on my 50 acres, no house, for anybody that is new to the channel, doesn't know what's going on. I had a 50-acre ranch in Colorado I bought. I moved a camper trailer on it. And I roughed it. No electric, no water. Over time, had electric brought in. And then right before I moved, I had the well drilled and finally got water. And so I never got to have showers or anything like that on the ranch. But for 50 acres, $1,400 a year in property taxes. Let's look at Arkansas. I bought 120 acres, raw land, no electric, no water, no house. Raw land once again, just like Colorado. I pay $154 a year. So would I want to move back to a state that costs that much money? Just in taxes? No. Their gas prices in Colorado over $4 right now. I'm paying $3.43 here. Let's just say 50 cents a gallon cheaper out here. My daily commuting, driving back and forth to get building material, take care of my animals, things like that, that is a substantial amount of money. When I left Colorado, round bales in Colorado were either $120 or $130 a bale. Out here, when I first moved out here, they were $25 a bale. Of course, hay everywhere's gone up, so I'm paying more than double when I moved out here, but still a lot cheaper than, say, Colorado. So those are the things you got to think about. Now that I've been here, the laws are different. Colorado compared to here, in Fremont County, you can't camp on your land more than so many days in an entire year and so many days consecutively. So if I didn't pay for a building permit, the county was going to come in and kick me off my own land. Arkansas, I can't speak for all of Arkansas, but Searcy County, where I live, I have purchased, even though I have mortgages on my property, I have unrestricted deeds. So my county still has unrestricted deeds, which means there's no building permits. You can camp in a tent, you can build a cardboard fortress, you can make a castle, you can do whatever you want on your land. Have been. Give me 1 second, Robert. I think you messed up that first line. That's got me confused. I have been with you for a long time. You know that. Let's get into the expenses. Pay taxes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it gets expensive. Hey, Grizzly. I have a large steel spoon that I use for digging out frozen like a rock ice cream. Awesome, Grizzly. And that's what I'm talking about. A lot of stuff. It's just, people go buy this plastic stuff and it breaks, it smashes, it degrades, it just doesn't last. You don't see things. Tools, you don't see tools still around from 15, 20 years ago, unless some meth heads got it, hidden underneath their mattress in their convertible or something. I don't know. But yeah, so if you're getting back to the homesteading thing, if you're looking at homesteading, I highly recommend you spend the money and rent a car. The reason I say that is vehicles are not cheap. They are a whole lot more expensive. When I did my road tripping, and I didn't want to put all those miles on my vehicle. So even now, with vehicles being even more expensive, is all the more reason not to put miles on your own vehicle, because then you're going to have to be buying a new vehicle. So my thoughts are, you rent a vehicle if you say you like Florida. Florida is one of your top 3 places. Montana is your second, and Maine is your third. Now, before you rent that car, you need to do your research and make sure those are your 3 places: Montana, Florida, and Maine. You want to look at cost of living. You want to look, if you're not retired or you don't have a source of income where you have to work, you want to look for employment. You want to look at restrictions, HOAs, your deed. Can you camp on your land? Can you collect rainwater? Colorado, for the longest time, you couldn't collect a drop of rainwater, and they charge you a storm water tax. They calculate your roof and your property, and they charge you taxes on the rain that falls from the sky on your property. Colorado changed. I believe now you can collect 155-gallon drum of rainwater. So these are different things you got to look at. Their laws, their bylaws, the communities. And then if you're set, Florida, Montana, Maine, they're my 3. I want to get to one of those 3 states to homestead. Then you rent a car or fly if you like flying. I won't fly because I'm not going through all the TSA BS and scanners and face masks and all that. That's not me. I'll drive. So if you want to fly. If you want to drive, I highly recommend rent a car. Get out. Go see those properties. Of course, before you go, it's also smart to look at that time. Now it might be a couple months apart that you go and look at these properties. But right before you go, hop on Realtor.com or Zillow.com or LandWatch.com or all the other ones and see what's available in those areas, in what part of those states. Then you want to go out and at least spend a weekend. And you want to just drive around. You want to meet people, see if you're a people person, not a people person, so on and so forth, and get the feel for the area. Look at the property, look at the traffic. If you find a property you like, go out and sit there for a day. Take some water bottles, some snacks, radio, sit in your vehicle, and just watch. Is there a lot of traffic there? Is there a bunch of people shooting throughout the day? Are there drug dealers going through there doing drug deals? So on and so forth. You want to get a feel for the area. After that, then between the 3 states what gave you the best feel. Then once you get the best feel for what state, then do even deeper research. When you find the property, look at what a well's going to cost, what electric's going to cost, unless it's already pre-built, and go from there and just keep digging and digging and digging until that's what you want. Or you can be like me. I rented a car, went to West Virginia because I gave a quote on what I would buy the property for, and the guy agreed. Went out there to sign papers and cracked pipes and needles all over the property. So I get there, don't like that property. I'm like, yep, never mind. I'm not signing those papers. I'm not buying the property. Looked at a couple other surrounding communities while I was there. I had already spent the money and drove all the way out there, so there's no point in just driving all the way back to Colorado and saying goodbye, West Virginia. I liked West Virginia for the weather. I liked it, well, not the humidity. So basically, when I looked, my animals, had to go with me. So only certain states allow my animals. So I had to find a state that focused on that. Texas, Florida, too hot, too humid. They were out. Maine, which I really wanted, Maine doesn't allow all those types of animals. So they were out. You guys are saying all different stuff. Let me see. Let's see. Renting a car is insane. It has more than triple in the past 3 years. I'm sure, Robert. I'm sure everything's gone up, so that don't surprise me. I was paying, I think, like $450 for the weekend or whatever, doing the round trip. What about Tennessee? No state taxes. Grizzly, when I looked at Tennessee, the property taxes were higher than Arkansas, and any land. I only had $40,000, so I had to get a mortgage. So if I couldn't find something that I could put $40,000 down on, I couldn't do it, and I wanted more than 50 acres. So anything in Tennessee that was over 50 acres didn't fit my expense purse, bill, wallet, whatever you want to call it. So I couldn't afford Tennessee. Tennessee is very beautiful. It's one of the places I loved, including Montana. Just like Arkansas, I couldn't live there. Too much humidity, too hot, too much undergrowth. Not my kind of place. And that's what I'm talking about, Robert. And that's why I'm saying, California, people in California, a lot of people are like, oh, that's Democrats. You got to pay the 10 cents for grocery bags. Now Colorado has that. It's really humid along the coast of California. There's too much pollution and all that in California. But people that live there love it. Just like you in Colorado, you love it. And Grizzly, wherever you are, probably Tennessee maybe. That's why all these channels that say this state is the perfect state to do it, it's not. It's where your heart is, where your soul is. And that's where you got to find it. If I would have stayed on the south side of Cotopaxi and I could have bought more land and I didn't have the water issues I had, that was the number one reason why I had to move from that 2.5 acres. For those of you that don't remember from way back then, when I first started, I got some chickens, then some rabbits, then some goats, and then some pigs, and it started growing. In Colorado, where I was, we got 7 inches of rain a year, which was not enough. My house, the 3 roofs that I had for my house, gave me enough water for me, but once I started getting too many animals, it did not supply the animals, and it did not supply the gardens. When I started the entire hugelkultur bed in my driveway, the fruit trees, so on and so forth. Grizzly, I was in Cotopaxi, Colorado. I also lived in Colorado Springs, where Robert is from as well, or lives, I believe. Since 91. I was a little kid then in 91. But yeah, so that's why I had to move to the ranch. And my neighbors, my mom and pa that moved to Kansas in 2016, they left. And then I had pot growers buy up the land below me, which I wasn't even offered the land below me. And they put up a bunch of greenhouses. And I had to listen to the fans blowing all night. I had to listen to the water pumps, because they were pumping water from this well and from this bucket and that, listening to them down there making all this ruckus. And then the worst part for me, I know this is just particular to me, but I hate the smell of weed, of marijuana. It gives me a headache, like, instantly. Don't know what it is, but it's horrible. I know when somebody's smoking weed anywhere close by, because boom, like that, I've got a migraine. And I had to smell that lofting up to my house all the time. Now, luckily, the people that bought my house were pot smokers, so they had no problem being right above a pot grower, because they got all of the wonderful smells that they love. But let me see. How's Arkansas weather? Chris, it is hot down here. When I woke up at 1:44 today, it was 102 real temperature, 124 or 126 real feel, 124. And then I took a picture and put it up on Facebook. It was, and YouTube, it was 101 and 101 and 121 for the real feel. So it's extremely hot. I've been hot. I've been sweaty here. It's been horrible. Definitely not the state for John. Not true, Robert. Not true. Colorado. Everybody thinks I hate Colorado. The worst part about Colorado, I would say, is Fremont County. The most crooked county I've ever lived in. The most crooked people I've ever dealt with. I know a lot of people wanted me to make that video on all the stuff I went through in Fremont County, and I said I was, but I'm not, because I'm just beyond all that. I don't even need to waste my time on that. If my neighbors would have never moved my mom and my pa, and the pot growers didn't buy from them, and I had more water, and I could have bought the land below me, then I think I would have still been there. I don't think I would have ever left, because my mom and my pa are the ones that took me in when I got deathly ill, when I was homeless, out on that 2.5 acres. The neighbors down below that did the solar, Roger and Shar, they were just amazing neighbors. My other neighbor to the other side of me, Linda and Lynn, I went and played poker once a week with the guys from the firehouse and girls. Me and Steve, who moved here from Michigan, he went from Colorado to Michigan, didn't like that, now he's down here. Me and him would go to a local bar that was in Westcliff, which was like 19 miles away. They had a bowling alley, they had pool tables, so we could go bowling, we could go shoot pool. Then I used to hang out in Canyon City with a bunch of people, and I had great, close, almost family members in Canyon City. And then, of course, my friends up in Colorado Springs. So if I didn't start homesteading, then I'd probably still be in my house on the side of the mountain, living there. But when I made that move from the south side Cotopaxi to north side, that just totally ruined anything. So it's not that Colorado's not the state for me. It's just after the situation, everything, I just can't do it. Did you hear all of Fremont County, from the mayor to the police, all fired and brought up on charges of corruption? No, but I know there's a lot of stuff out there, and like that was the whole thing with the builder that took the $30,000 from me and just walked off, and they went and prosecuted him because through some of the deputies and stuff, I found out that his family are friends with the DA's office, and if you're in one of those 6 families, they don't do anything. So Fremont County Sheriff's did an investigation, and he had stolen over $1 million. I think it was $1.2 million from elderly, disabled vets, and things like that. And they had records, they had papers, everything, and they would not even they wouldn't even do any type of charges. So it's yeah. Oh yeah, Grizzly, it's horrible. But yeah, the sheriffs got in trouble because they covered up a murder. One of them, I guess, killed a lady or something and put bloody sheets and all that in a storage unit on their personal credit card. Their credit card never got changed over when they got the new card in the mail, and the storage unit went up for auction. You can look all this up on in the news. Look up Fremont County, Colorado murder and all that type of stuff. And somebody, I think from Denver, won the storage unit and found the murder weapon and all the bloody sheets and all that stuff inside the storage unit and called the news, and that went public, and I think the cop got, if I recall right, I think like 3 or 4 days in jail, and then he got let go and then got rehired or something like that. So yeah, Fremont County, Colorado, it's messed up. But off of that, people, let's get on some happier stuff. So, like I'm saying, if you're homesteading, you got to find what state fits you. It may be California, maybe Maine, maybe New Mexico, maybe Massachusetts, maybe Florida. You've got to figure it out. The weather, the taxes, the people, the community, the restrictions, the lack of restrictions. You know, some people love living in an HOA because they don't have to mow their yard. They don't have to worry about that water expense, the repair expense on mowers and gas and all that type of stuff. So you got to find what fits for you. You may not want to homestead. You just may want to be in an HOA because you don't want to have to be out in the heat. You may not want to deal with yards, all that type of stuff. So these are things everybody should be thinking about, not just homesteaders. Like I said, not a liberal. Well, see, Robert, I don't get into politics at all. So, you know, people can go whichever way they want to go. In my mind, it's a big scam. I had somebody post that I'm a coward and all this type of stuff because I don't vote and people died for their right to vote and all that. Well, guess what? I'm ex-military. And apparently he hasn't seen videos knowing that I'm ex-military. So I went into service. I could have been sent overseas. I could have died for this country. And that's my right. Just like with freedom of speech, gun rights, anything else. I don't force you to have one. You shouldn't force me to have one. I don't force you not to have one. You shouldn't force me not to have one. Same search and seizures, the whole 9 yards. So that's what we need to think about in this country, is just going back to like Arkansas, where I am now, and why Arkansas is the best state for me to homestead in is because Searcy County is more in line with how I think than anywhere else I've lived, including Southside Cotopaxi, because Southside Cotopaxi was still same as Northside Cotopaxi, same laws and all that type of stuff. So, for example, because I know I'm going to have some people asking, well, why is Searcy County not in line with my beliefs? Okay, well, I've talked about for years now, and when I say years, I talk about my whole life, because I've always said I'm an alien. The alien perspective of God, Jesus, the Bible, all that type of stuff. For those of you that don't know, I don't believe in all that. I don't force you not to believe it. I don't force you to believe it. Nobody should be down my neck the same way. If somebody wants to say, God bless you, I say, God bless you back. That doesn't matter to me. If you come telling me the Bible says this, Jesus said this, you need to do this, I don't need to do nothing. Just like I tell other people they don't need to do nothing. They can choose to do it or choose not to. So for those of you that might have watched the Quorum Court meeting, now some might say that's a little politics. I'm doing that for the community. I'm homesteading here in Arkansas. I'm homesteading in Searcy County. I want to be part of the community. But we all know I'm not social. So to sit behind a tripod and film and then come home and do some editing, which that took, I think, 18 hours to do that video for uploading, downloading, all that type of stuff, put in the little special effects, because we know I'm not a techie person. I'm doing that because there's a lot of elderly, a lot of single moms and dads that can't make it to the meeting. And when I had posted a photo of it, because I wanted to hear about the crypto thing, because we all know I was in and out of crypto, still in crypto, but not like I was, because markets are down everywhere. A lot of people said they couldn't make it, they wish they could see it, they wish they could have been there, so on and so forth. So my thought is, there's a need for it, so that's something I can fulfill, that it only costs me gas driving out there, driving back, and then some time on my laptop and my phone trying to edit the video and do all that. So it's not like it's a major inconvenience to me. It is, because like I said last Sunday, Monday vlog, you gotta value your time. Your time's what's valuable. Money's not valuable, it's your time. You only have so much on this planet. So the thing was, do I want to give my time to do this for the community? Well, that's a small sacrifice I make because that makes me part of the community. I'm benefiting, you know, people aren't making money off of it or something like that. But like the elderly, you know, what happened to respect your elders? Nowadays, I see people yelling at old people all the time. Well, not so much here, but in Colorado and stuff at gas stations and things like that. Nobody used to speak like that to elderly. You're supposed to respect your elderly. So if me sacrificing can help out some elderly that are still here, that made it to that age, that a lot of these young people screaming and yelling at older people probably will never make it to that age, then that's something I'm willing to do. So it's not politics, it's just something I'm doing to help the community. And if people that follow the channel want to preview another part of Searcy County, if they want to move to Searcy County, which I've got several people moving here and talking about moving here. My boomer up in Massachusetts, one in Wisconsin. Steve moved down here from Michigan, and Brett, I believe. Brett or Brad. See, I'm bad. I have so many people reach out and have conversations. Brett or Brad from Kentucky. Forgive me for messing up. I'm bad with names. But I've got several people looking at moving down here. And so that gives them another insight if they're into the politics. I know some of the people that are moving down here are into the whole politics things. They're leaving blue states for red states, which, like I said, I don't pay any mind to that. But if you watch that video going all the way back before this tirade, and I saw that squirrel, is what doesn't align with me in Searcy County. And that is, if you watch that video, they start with a prayer. I'm not religious. The county's religious. They have like 12 churches in St. Joe, probably 100 churches in St. Joe for a population of 124. And every little county has churches. You go to Pendle, which is I think 112 population, they got churches. It's a very religious area. That doesn't float on my line. But Colorado didn't float on my, well, they weren't too bad until I left. 2020, everything changed. Now they're charging 10 cents for grocery bag. They passed the red flag gun laws. They did all that type of stuff. So when you're looking at places, these are all the things you got to look at. And you also have to look at the negatives. You don't just want to look at the positives of where you're going to move, where you're going to homestead. Thank you, Grizzly. But you want to look at the negatives because you got to see if you can live with the negatives. That's like somebody that doesn't like loud noises. If you find the most perfect place to live, but there's a train that goes behind the property, can you sacrifice dealing with that loud noise for all the goods you got? Even though you've got 99 goods and this ain't one, it's something you got to think about. And that's another major problem people focus when they move. They look at how much bad stuff they had, like me in Colorado, how bad it was. And I moved for the bad and I moved for less expense. And Arkansas provided all the good. So I was looking at getting away from the bad and getting to the good. Well, when you're doing that, you also have to weigh the bads because you're going to have bads wherever the good is. And then you've got to say, okay, I can do this or I can't do that. And then that might change it from Florida to Montana, or from Montana to New York, or New York to Vermont, or wherever your list of states are. That may change. The bads here in Arkansas are pretty bad, in my opinion. Humidity, now yes, we're only like 50-60% humidity, so it's nothing like what I grew up with in Maryland and Delaware and Florida, where I had 100% humidity all the time. Trifling with mosquitoes and all that type of stuff, so it's not that bad. But when you live in a dry climate like Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, and then you come to 50% humidity for 4 months of the year, it's extremely different. It's an extreme change. The bad part about Homestead is low quality internet, so I can't play video games. Well, no, Chris. I bet you there are some places you can homestead, different states, that you could have really good internet to do that. Steve, who moved down here from Michigan, he's got his Starlink satellite, because he does all different stuff online. He's got to have really good internet. So he's got the Starlink that, now it's expensive, like you said. I think you pay like $750 or $850 for the dish and all that. So it's not cheap, but there's ways of spending money to get that high internet, or not at your homestead. Well, and that's the sacrifices we got to make, and that's part of homesteading. If you want to homestead, you do that. You make sacrifices. Same thing with, look at back in the day. They didn't have any electric, and that's like me. I've got my big screen TV. I've got my lights. I've got my air conditioning. Even though it's hot in here, I'm actually sweating underneath this shirt, because this building, I can't cool off quick enough with how hot it is. I need one more AC unit in this room in order to do it. But that's why I'm not at my homestead now. Because, and I get this question all the time, is why I'm not at the homestead. I'm not willing to sacrifice what it would take to be on the homestead. I want to be on the homestead. It kills me being here and not where I can walk out the door in the evening, sit in a chair, look at the stars with the animals walking around. Or go out in the morning, if I wake up early like I do sometimes when the dogs wake me up, to take the goats for a walk or something like that. I'm sacrificing, and it's costing me more to be here than it would be at the homestead. Here, I'm paying $150 to $180 a month in electric bill. Here, I'm paying over $100 for a water bill. Here, I'm spending $250 minimum a month driving once a day back and forth, 6 miles there, 6 miles back, and that's days I only go homestead once to feed and water the animals. When it starts getting cooler, I'm 2 to 3 trips going. So some months I'm spending $1,000 a month in gas going back and forth to the homestead. That's a lot of savings to be over at the homestead. However, saving, say, $1,500 a month on average living there than here, that $1,500 doesn't build a house, it doesn't provide AC, electric, solar, battery, whatever to get me there. So that's the thing. You know, we either got to go back to the old days of struggling and toughing it out like boomers, or be millennials like me and sit in here in the AC. It's decisions we got to make. In return, I don't have to deal with society, and instead a local community of people with morals. And that's why I'm here in Arkansas, Chris. Even in Cotopaxi, where the population was low, it was not a community. It was a society. There was a small community with the neighbors that I had, but most of the neighbors, nobody talked to nobody. What is your cents per kilowatt? I want to say 9 cents. I don't know exactly. I think it was like 13 cents in Colorado. And when Steve looked at my electric, he couldn't believe how cheap it was. The reason my bill is so expensive is all the itemized surcharges and upcharges that go on the bill. My electric use is only like $50 some a month for all the kilowatts I use. Now, on average, before summer, like all last winter, I averaged 10 kilowatts a day. And now I think I'm up to like 26, 27. But that's because I got 3 AC units running nonstop. They don't shut off because of the heat. The building's got no insulation. And then I had the snowball business with all the freezers, refrigerators, and all that stuff plugged in. Now the 10 kilowatts, I didn't have any of that. I didn't have a fridge. I didn't have any of that. Now I have the microwave, the fridge. I got the freezer over here. So I'm using a lot more now, so I can't tell you exactly where I'm at now. But Steve said Arkansas is the cheapest he knows across the whole U.S. So where I am, apparently, is the cheapest. Be glad you're not in Missouri where they're charged. What's the electrical pricing, Chris? What are you being charged up there? Yeah, it's no fun with any expense, let alone if it gets expensive. But that's another thing you got to look at if you're looking at going to different states, is what your new expenses could be. Same with taxes. Wow, 31 cents for you. And are you in Tennessee, Grizzly? Is that why you were telling me Tennessee? See, Tennessee had, I don't know if you're in Tennessee, but if you are, I looked at several things in Tennessee. No. Okay. But Tennessee, when I looked at Tennessee, there were several different things. Property taxes per year were more expensive. They had more restrictions. Like Arkansas is unrestricted. Tennessee actually had restrictions. The gas prices at the time in the West. Okay. There's several different things with Tennessee that was more expensive. So my key thoughts. So when I did my research, and this was 2020, I shut down the petting zoo. I want to say it was in July of 2020, and just said I'm done with all the BS, and I'm leaving. So I got online and I started researching everything, YouTube videos, see what everybody says, and of course, depending on the person, they'll tell you what state is the best state to homestead in. And of course, it's normally the state they're in or that they want to go to. If you really pay attention to these videos, it's where they want to go to or where they're living. That's why it's the best state. Like I said, there's a lot of great things with Colorado. For those of you that don't want humidity, for those of you that don't want ticks, for those of you that want beautiful mountain scenes, you can see for miles. Arkansas, I've lost my views. I don't have good views. It's nothing but trees and vegetation. I don't see nowhere. Right now across my homestead, I can't see 5 feet through the woods because of the dense undergrowth, like Robert was talking about. Family I know in Missouri have to buy an electrical plan when you have priority time usage for electrical. Yep. Yeah, and before, for those of you that remember, when I went out to Maryland and got my grandfather and brought my grandfather out, there was a couple times in Maryland that his electric got shut off for several hours at a time, and half the time you didn't get a warning. And he used to complain about that he pays electric bill and yet his electric gets turned off. And they did that for the different brown outages or whatever they call it, when power was in too great of usage. That's another. See, I want the grid. Steve's trying to talk me out of this. I want the grid because I'm an energy whore. I like to have my TV on when I go to bed with grumpy old man, set the sleep timer for 60 minutes. Well, that's an hour. You run the TV for an hour on a big screen TV, that's 340 watts. It's a lot of power for 1 hour. A microwave's 1,000 watts for an hour, but people don't run a microwave for an hour. So the biggest energy usage I have is my big screen TV. That's why I want grid electric, because I'm an energy whore. I like to be able to flip switches. I don't want to have to start a generator, deal with changing batteries out and all that, because I'm not an electric person. I'm not a solar person. That's not my thing. I'm not mechanics. I don't do any of that type of stuff. Steve's trying to get me to do the solar because, like he said, eventually all that stuff's coming to Arkansas, which I understand that. So it's one of those half dozen one way, half dozen the other. You either have grid electric and you deal with all the tyranny and BS that comes with being on the grid, but you get to flick a switch most of the time until they start where they shut off your power, like my grandfather, where you can flick a switch at any given time you got power. Or you go to solar and you got to have a huge sum of money to start with solar for your batteries, your solar panels, inverters, charge controllers, all that type of stuff. And then people don't think, they're like, oh, I don't have electric bill. But you just spent 50 grand on a solar system, and in 10 years, if you don't damage your batteries and you know what you're doing in solar, and you get 10 years out of your batteries, which we know they're not making things like they used to, so I'm sure the batteries are going to die sooner than 10 years, you got to buy all new batteries. If electric hits your system, or somehow you ground your system out and you burn up an inverter or something like that, it's more cost. So people don't understand that solar is not the cheap go-to like everybody thinks it is. There's a lot of replacement cost over the years, and if you weigh everything out going out, it's no different than paying to have the grid come in. So it's something I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing yet. Yep, solar is way too expensive. I agree, Chris. I had solar in my house like you guys saw. I ran generators to recharge my batteries. I did that. And, I mean, look, I lived 8 years. Let's see, 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, 2018, I moved to the ranch because I got my grandfather, bought that fancy camper trailer and took care of my grandfather and moved to the ranch from my house. So 8 years I lived off grid with satellite internet, which was HughesNet. I do not recommend HughesNet to anybody. That's the worst internet platform service provider in the world. Their customer service sucks. I hated HughesNet. But I had HughesNet. I had the propane tank. For those of you that don't know, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about in here. So I had that. I had a small little solar system, not enough to run anything. I did install fancy lights, so I got 3 different light settings. But I had propane, like that propane bottle, propane stove. I had a propane on-the-wall hot water on-demand heater, a Mari from Home Depot. They were like $190 at the time. Now they're like $400. They're up there with Rheem that are like $1,200 now. A propane tank for my dryer and did dryer. Now here, electric hot water heater. That's taking up a lot of power. That's another reason why I'm spending a lot of power. And then I've got my electric dryer. So, I lived 8 years off of solar, off of propane. I did the rain catchment with the cisterns on my driveway. I ran it through my filter systems and so on and so forth. So it's possible to live that way. It's just a harder life to live that way. But if you look at the end, at 2018, when I made those videos, when I finally had a toilet upstairs that I could flush, how exciting and exhilarating that is to not have to walk downstairs in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. A lot of people have never lived without water, without running electricity, and then they have electric go out, which in Cotopaxi, power went out a lot, and my neighbor Dan was upset he couldn't have coffee. But the neighbors down below us, they were having coffee because they had everything set up. I had my Italian percolator that I sat on the wood stove so I could make coffee. I had solar, so I never was without power unless it was cloudy days or I used too much power with the TV and stuff like that. So these are just decisions that you got to think about. Yeah, don't go with HughesNet. That's a hard way to live. Chris, the hardest way to live was in that hobo tent. Um, it would have been even worse if I did it here in Arkansas. But so 2011, I lost everything. My house got foreclosed on. I sold what I could. I bought the 2.5 acres. Well, see, in Colorado, we don't have air conditioning. We don't have air conditioning in Colorado because it's not needed. But in 2011, when I lost everything, you know, I was able to buy tarps and make a hobo tent after I got the land for $2,000. That's the worst part because I was damp in the morning, but not like here. I thought it was difficult being homeless living in the hobo tent in Colorado, but if I had the hobo tent here, I'd probably be dead because you go out here, you can take a cup like this across the grass first thing in the morning and you got a glass of water. That's how wet and humid it is here during the summers. In Colorado, I didn't have that issue. You know, things were damp, but not sopping wet. And a lot of people don't think of that either. All the homeless people out there, especially like here, how they do it with no air, everything soaking wet, they smell, they stink, no bathing. It was a difficult part of my life. I'm kind of glad I don't have video footage of all that because it was such a struggle and a lot of tears. And I definitely don't like crying on camera. But I kind of do wish I had some of that footage from back then. I say footage, some of the recordings because I never recorded. Because it would have been nice now to see how far I've come from 2011 to now and how much farther I go. And we've seen, you know, I got that 2-story house, all the exciting, exhilarating times. Got light bulbs. I've got a flushing toilet. I had vegetables growing upstairs when I turned the upstairs bathroom into an indoor greenhouse. When I did the hugelkultur beds. And I got fruit trees and started really getting things going. To go to the ranch where I didn't have electric, didn't have water, didn't have a way to bathe. I had to go to town to laundromats and gyms and take showers. To finally get electric and water there, and then move in here into my shed on the 120 acres with no electric, no water, going to Harrison to the laundromats to shower and bathe, to now I'm here in the restaurant. And now I moved into something comfortable. I don't want to start rough again. So one of these days, I'm going to get to the homestead, I promise you. If Colorado gets sold, and I get the money from Colorado soon, you know, then I'll be working on the house. Now, it's going to probably take a year or two for the house. So even if I had the money today, we know I ain't working in this heat in the summer. So we're still going to be looking at a year to 2 years out. But as soon as I can get something set up over there, a dried-in structure, it doesn't have to be pretty. I don't need it finished to move in. What I do need for me to move to the homestead is I need the house structure dried in, which means it has the windows, the doors, the roof, and the walls. The walls, the gabion baskets, they don't have to be stuccoed and, you know, finished. I need my electric panel put in. And depending on whether I'm going with the grid or solar or generator or whatever I decide to do, I need that electric box that I can at least stub electric cords into it. And I can run electric cords through the house so I've got power where I need it to survive. Which means with those, if the geothermal does not work, now, because I'm not an engineer, I've had people tell me I need an engineer, how big the culvert is, how many square feet the house is, the outlet of the house to see how much air and the ground temperature and all that type of stuff. I'm not doing all that. I'm an alien. This stuff comes in my head. I always say everything normally works out for me. But I was on conversation with one of my subscribers that's up in North Carolina right now, or was, and he told me, "You're always right. These things always work out." I said, okay, I'll be honest, it's a 50-50 shot. Half the time, my plans work out to a T, alien-wise. But I do. 50% of the time, I had the worst luck in the world. The other 50% of the time, I had the best luck in the world. I mean, look at Colorado. $30,000 gets taken away by a contractor. Took all my savings. But I find this wonderful 120 acres in Colorado that the guy's willing to do an owner finance until I can get a mortgage. So I've got somewhere to move to. Worst possible luck, best possible luck. Without the worst, you don't see the best. Without the best, you don't see the worst. So that's my goal, is a dried-in structure. I need power. So if the geothermal doesn't work, I can run AC units. I need the rain catchment system set up. And internet. That's all I need to move to the homestead. I can worry about I take that back, bathroom. I was going to say I can go to the bathroom outdoors, but showers and stuff, no. I do want that. So I need at least a utility room done with a toilet and a tub, because I've got to soak my back and neck every night, or I'm the worst person to be around when I'm in pain. I'm like a rabid animal. Carla was still around. She could tell you. I'm not a friendly person when I'm in pain. But yeah. So, like I said, the walls don't have to be done. The kitchen doesn't have to be done. I'm perfectly fine going back to I'll just get a little propane stove or whatever to get me by, which I don't even have to do that, because I can take this nasty propane stove with me, or I got the brand new one in the shed that's covered in mouse shit now, which I still need to clean the shed out, because we all know I don't want to deal with that either. But if I can have that little basic setup, then I can get moved over to the homestead. So like I said, if I get the money tonight, I'm still looking at 1 year to 2 years to build, because a 3-foot thick wall, like I said, where that blue line is, that's the insulation. That's a lot of rock to move. That's a lot of gabion baskets to build. A lot of time, and we know at least 4 months a year here is high humidity, high heat. So I won't be working from June to September, right? June, July, August, September, October, till October. June to October. But we're going to see what I can do and how everything unfolds. Grizzly says, what area would you live if price is reasonable and no camels, based on what animals is allowed? Grizzly, you're going to ask me a difficult question. Where I would live if I could have my animals if it was reasonable priced. So, if you haven't been around, well, a lot of people don't know, but my heart has always pulled to Alaska. Don't ask me why. I hate the cold, which is nice. Arkansas does not have really bad winters. Everybody's like, oh, it's a wet cold, it's an icy cold. Nothing like East Coast like I grew up on, and the ground is never frozen solid. You can dig in the ground year-round here. But Alaska has always pulled my heart. The other two places that I almost moved when I lost everything, but then realized, well, I lost everything, I can't really move to another state, was Montana. Montana, I've always had a calling to Montana. And then because Boss of the Swamp, for those of you that's seen Boss of the Swamp, Maine. Maine looks so beautiful. And that upstate New York where I was going to move, for those of you that don't know, and if you don't know about that Grizzly one, Upstate New York, I put in 9 offers on 9 properties. I got 9 accepted phone calls from the realtors. Then I found out that the property taxes were increasing. That's why so many people were bailing out of upstate New York. And I didn't want to pay $3,000 a month or $3,000 a year when Colorado was $1,400. So that curved that. And something at the last minute gave me a feeling not to go to upstate New York. And that next winter was the blizzard up in Buffalo, and all of upstate New York got all that record snow. So I always had that feeling. I looked at Ecuador overseas, and I was going to move to a town of Valencia, I believe it was called. I'm bad with names once again. But right before I flew down there to look at a property in Ecuador, a volcano erupted. And I scrapped going that way. And this ad came up on Craigslist for my 2.5 acres in Cotopaxi. Well, that volcano that erupted down in Ecuador was Mount Cotopaxi. So everything with me, and this is another like the alien perspective that I have, is everything mirrors. I don't know how, don't know why, but everything in my life mirrors. So Mount Cotopaxi erupted. I had the feeling, don't go down there. I didn't book the plane ticket, and then Mount Cotopaxi erupted. And here I found land in Cotopaxi, Colorado, and moved to Cotopaxi. Now you may say, oh, that's just a coincidence. But it goes through my whole life. So, for example, the most recent one that matches up. So, the 2.5 acres, I needed to go somewhere else. Hold on 1 second. Damn, yeah. Chris, I'll answer yours real quick. No, I never got another kangaroo. No new animals until I'm living on the homestead, until I have pens built, barns built. I want the animals well taken care of. They're well taken care of, but in my mind, I need barns and stuff like that, not just these hobo tarp tent lean-tos that I have built right now. So once I get moved there, then yes, I do want to get more animals and get back to kangaroos and different things. But back to the mirroring. So when I moved from the 2.5 acres, Grizzly, and went to the ranch, for those of you that don't know, the road that went up to the one side of the ranch was County Road 16. Fast forward to now, I bought the 120 acres. The 120 acres is on Moscow Love Road. If you look up Moscow Love Road on the internet, it says County Road 16. They changed the name of County Road 16 to Moscow Love Road. So once again, there's that mirroring effect. What's the odds that I go from one property with County Road 16 to the next property with County Road 16? It's just these mirror effects. But when I lost everything, I looked at Montana, but ended up couldn't affording Montana. So then I'm like, I'll look somewhere local. And that's when I saw 3 different properties that didn't have prices. Out of the 3 different properties around Colorado, I think one was up in Green Forest. There was one, I think it might have been Woodland Park or Monument. And then the one in Cotopaxi. And I don't know why. I love Green Forest area. I think it was Green Forest. I don't remember now. But something told me to call the Cotopaxi one. And I called the Cotopaxi one first because none of those 3 had prices on it. And like I said, I only had a few $1,000s. And I went out there, or the person answered, Donald, and said, we're headed that area this weekend. If you want to meet us down there, we can show you it. So I'm like, okay, I'll look at the property before I even ask them about price to see if I can say, hey, this property's bad, and get them to go with the lower price. Well, the property, as everybody saw, was 45, 50-degree slope on the side of the mountain with nowhere to build. And what have you, what area of Montana? Without the map, Grizzly, it's we're going back to 2011. I want to say Billings, but once again, I'm bad with names, so I'm not sure where. I looked at several different places in Montana, because there was a guy on YouTube, ex-service member. He ended up passing away. I used to watch his station all the time when I got into the doomsday prepping mindset. His name was Charlie McGrath. Don't know if you ever seen his stuff, but I used to watch him. He was somewhere up in Montana. I had looked up by his area because he liked that area. I also looked at a couple other places, but I never went to Montana because things never clicked for me. Southwest, over by Idaho. Yeah, I think that's probably where a lot of the different towns were, because a lot of people told me go over to Idaho, but I was watching too many things change with Idaho, with their governance and bylaws and the water and all that type of stuff, and now Idaho's getting, raped and robbed and pillaged over the water situation. There's a lot of people on YouTube talking about how it's hurting a lot of people in Idaho. So that's what never made me go into Idaho, because I foresaw a lot of this stuff happening with Idaho. But nothing matched up for me in Montana. So, and I never had the money to go. And it wasn't where I was willing to go into debt. Like with Arkansas, when I came here, I went $38,000 in credit card debt to get moved here. And that was a debt I was willing to take on because I had a feeling. I had no idea Moscow Love Road was County Road 16, because the realtor said this was Moscow Love Road, and it wasn't until after I signed that I see the real road name, or the real technical for the road is County Road 16. For those of you that don't know, I came out because like West Virginia, the guy accepted my offer, went out there, cracked pipes and needles, said, nope, I'm not buying this property. So then I went back to Colorado, and I was talking to somebody up in Penrose, Colorado, and they're like, have you looked at Arkansas? And I'm like, who the hell lives in Arkansas? And I still, to today, ask myself, who the hell lives in Arkansas? Because I would have never thought of coming to Arkansas. I would have never thought that Arkansas would have fit me. Don't know why. It's just that feeling. So I rented another car, found a property. The guy, it was 40 acres for $52,000, and I said, I only have $40,000 cash. Would you be willing to take $40,000? And he said yes, because he needed the money for something else. So he accepted my offer, and I said, however, I want to see the property, because after driving out West Virginia and running into that mess, I didn't want the same thing here. So I called the realtor up. The realtor said that he would meet me. I rented a car, drove out here to Arkansas, went to the property. It needed like 2.5 miles of road, not road, but roadish driveway built to get all the way back to the property. The easement was legal. It was all on paperwork. It had ruts. It had washouts. You needed 2 major culvert installations to build your driveway all the way down to the property, and it did not feel like a good fit. So the realtor took me to the 120 acres, and I found out it was Moscow Love Road, and then it was pouring down rain when we got to the 120 acres, and we hopped in his side-by-side, which I ended up getting soaked. We drove down Purdom Lane, kind of. Branches smacking us in the face. Purdom Lane, I mean, it was like a tunnel. Just so overgrown from where it was now. We got as far down as we could, turned around, came back, got in his vehicle. I'm like, what's that feeling? And I look down and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is all this? And he looks down at my legs and he goes, oh, it's sea tick season. And I'm like, what's sea tick season? He goes, it's where you have millions and millions of sea ticks that get on ends of branches and they cover you. And oh my God, that was my introduction to ticks here in Arkansas. I had thousands of them. It was horrible. I had little red bumps all over my body, and that wasn't just sea ticks. That was also the chiggers, which a couple weeks ago I ran chiggers again because I was stupid. But we get in his truck, and he calls the owner up, and I said I only had the 40,000, and it was parcels. And he said, well, the guy's a developer, and he might be willing to do a package deal. And so I'm like, how many parcels are we talking? He's like, he's got 6 of them here. So I'm like, okay, let me find out what all 6 would be. Well, then it turns out one of the pieces, you had all my parcels that are today here. But this corner where the animals are, where my shed is, where the grain bin is, this was not my property, that corner. The property was 3 properties over. And so I didn't want split properties. So he said he knew the person that owned that corner and could talk them into a land swap. I said, well, if you can talk them into land swap, and then we talked finances, and they were willing to do owner finance until I could get a loan. So I went with that idea, and I signed the papers on the spot. Now we're talking July. You can't see 5 feet through the woods. I could not see the terrain of the property, even though I had topo maps. Topo maps like do not show in Arkansas. I mean, yes, they do. I mean, that's why I got my land compass and all that type of stuff, like I did land nav in the military. But I had no idea what I was truly buying, because the land here is just so outrageously, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. However, I like that. I don't want flat land. You get a lot more land having the ups and downs than just flat land, because your acres are determined by a flat plain, not the mountains and stuff. So I love having mountains and stuff. Same with the ranch. I gain a lot more than 50 acres by having all the mountains and mountaintops and ups and downs. But like I said, you know, do your research and stuff on properties you want, but I didn't. I signed and just went with it, and I am where I am now, and I'm loving where I am now. If I would have went to Montana, I might have loved that. You know, when me and Carla were together a couple years ago, and I was online looking at that property in Fairbanks, and it was less than $200,000 for over 240 acres, and I wanted to pull the trigger on that and go into more debt, because Fairbanks and Homer, Alaska are the 2 places I've always looked at. That's my starting point. So my grandparents, they know if things went bad here, I most likely will end up going to Alaska. Oh, no problem, Grizzly. I'm glad to give another perspective, and it makes you think if you decide to move or other people decide to move, where, you know, all these things you got to consider. And like with Alaska, my thoughts on Alaska is I can't have my animals in Alaska, or I would have went to Alaska from Colorado. The reason I would have went to Alaska from Colorado is because Alaska's always pulled on my heart. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Alaska's so big, but yet so many people know people in either Fairbanks or Alaska. It's crazy, you know, just 2 small places in Alaska are known by so many people. But if things went terribly wrong here in Arkansas with Colorado not selling, or I get the ranch back and I have to resell it, and I don't have the money to feed my animals since I spend $2,500 a month feed bill my animals, and now feed just went up again. They just informed me a couple days ago when I ordered feed for Monday that now there's a corn shortage in the U.S., so grain prices are going up again. So this is not wonderful. But if I get to the point that I end up having to get rid of the animals, my goal is probably to go look at Alaska, and I had a 3-tier step system for Alaska. I've never told anybody. The only people I've ever talked about this with was my mama and my papa, my grandparents in Colorado, my dad's parents. And that is, I've always looked at Fairbanks because you got Walmart, you got Home Depot, you got, basics. That's my comfort. We all like our comfort luxuries. It's hard to get out of the luxuries and go back to the old way. So my 3-tier step system would start up in Fairbanks, where I wish I would have kind of bought that property, because then, I would have it. Then once I know the area of Fairbanks, then I was going to head to Homer. The reason Homer, for those of you in Alaska and those of you that are going to wonder why Homer, is because Homer is on the water, and my next step is I don't want a plane. I don't want to learn how to fly. I don't want to be in the sky. Even though I'm an alien, I want nothing to do with the skies. I got my captain's license when I was younger on the East Coast. Went through a massive storm in the Atlantic Ocean, and where the captain of the boat got sick, there was a bunch of us in the class that had to go out. This was our final thing for our thing. Everybody got sick. The captain got sick. I was the only one sitting there chugging yoo-hoos. People don't understand it. I don't know either. Kenai to Homer. Somebody from Canyon City, Colorado that I know on Facebook, he's in Kenai. He moved up there. Donovan something. He's a musician. He was telling me I should go look there. But I got my captain's license. So Homer was my next stepping point out of Fairbanks, because then I could get a boat, because most of Alaska don't have roads. You either have to sled dog, 4-wheel, roads if there are roads, boat, or plane. Anything with a plane I don't want. So I would go to Homer as my next step. Now, I would be living in Fairbanks. I'd be able to look at different towns with hopes of going to Homer. Get a boat, because then once you have a boat, then you can go up and down the coast. You can check out a lot more communities that you wouldn't be able to get access to except through boat. I love snow crab lakes. I love Maryland blue crabs. I hate fish, so salmon season, all that type of stuff, that don't work for me. I don't like wild game meat, so I wouldn't be shooting moose and deer and stuff like that. I would still be going to get my groceries from grocery store. I know that's not getting off the grid or homesteading, but that's just me. But I would have a boat, hopefully move over by Homer area, and then from there, I would chart my way up and down the coast until I could find a huge tract of land, probably way, way up north, because even if I get rid of all my animals, these guys over here, my Anatolian Shepherds, they would be going with me. So my 3rd tier and my final frontier of Alaska would be getting a huge piece of land attached to a waterway that I could just go and disappear. And then if that happens, I would have no phone, no internet, and my days left on this planet would be homesteading a small garden whenever I could. I know Alaska doesn't have a big growing season, but it would be adventure. It would be going with the dogs, which we all know, 4 Anatolian Shepherds, they can take down a bear, they can take down a mountain lion. They're made for that. I would be out exploring. So if something does change here, which I'm hoping not, I really, that's why I have different properties. I got the restaurant, I got the rental house, I got the homestead. So a lot of people ask, I've said before, I have 4 titles here, and people don't understand how I have 4 titles, because I got rental house, I got the restaurant, and I got the homestead. That's 3. Where's the 4th title at? The 4th title is the homestead. Remember when I said this corner down here wasn't part of the tract? It was over here, and I had a land swap. So I had a land swap, so it's 2 different titles for the homestead. That's where my 4 titles come from. Now, like I said, I'm trying to sell the rental house. Eventually, I'm going to fix this restaurant up and resell this restaurant and get to homestead. So then I'll just be down to the 2 titles, and then hopefully slowly get myself out of debt and the mortgages and get things paid off, so on and so forth. But if things don't go as planned, and I do end up going to Alaska, I know I've said for a long time, this channel will never disappear. Alaska is amazing, except the dark time. Well, I've heard there's a lot of bad in Alaska grizzly. My grandparents are travelers. They've always lived in like mobile home parks and stuff like that. They've never put money into nice houses or having nice cars or nice things. My dad's parents that live in Colorado, they focused on spending all their money on seeing the world. They're the only ones in my family that went and traveled. They've been all around the world. Rest of my family either blew their money, gambled it away, drank it away, or just made stupid decisions. Along with me, I've done some traveling. I've been to London, England, Paris, France, Jamaica, Bahamas, Nassau. I like more tropical. Growing up, I always loved the beach. I partied at Ocean City all the time. My thought was I was going somewhere tropical. When I went in the Air Force and they ask you for your dream bases, which I found out you don't get your dream bases, was all East Coast and tropical bases. And where they put me? Colorado, in the mountains, in the cold, in the snow. That I totally hated. But yeah, I thought I was going somewhere tropical. As I've gotten older, I don't like the heat. Steve, he's loving the heat because he hates the cold. I don't know how people like the heat, because wintertime, I can wear clothes, put blankets on, and I got the wood stove. I can always warm myself up. Here, I'm sweating inside my residence because the ACs can't keep this place cool enough with how hot it is. So it all depends on what people want. But as I've gotten older, I want to be in a colder location. And yet I come to Arkansas, but Arkansas has fit. But if I end up going to Alaska, I will film my Fairbanks journey. I will film my boating Homer-ish, if I go to Homer, journey. But when I go to my final frontier, I'll sadly end YouTube. Because at that point, I am going to disconnect from the world. I'm not going to have a phone. I'm not going to have cameras. I'm not doing any type of social media. The only family I talk to biologically are my dad's parents, because of drama and issues throughout my family. So I don't have to worry, by the time that comes, my grandparents are in their 70s and 80s. I hate to say it, but they're not going to be around at that point. So at that point, only thing I have are a couple close friends and YouTube family. But if I do my final frontier, then yes, I'll probably end this channel, and that will be the end of the journey with you guys, and that will start the journey of being disconnected and out in the wild with the dogs, and just enjoying every day, every moment, every minute on this planet until I'm not here. Let's see. Thank you for your honesty on the heat thing. Oh, I'll tell you, Grizzly, Florida was bad. I lived in Florida. I lived in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio, Texas was the worst place in the world I've ever lived. Worse than Fremont County, Colorado. I hated Fremont County, Colorado on the north side when I moved. South side, I didn't have any issues. Didn't have any issues with Fremont County at that point. It wasn't until I messed with the wrong families apparently on the north side. But San Antonio, Texas, for those of you that never been down there, they have extreme heat. That's what Air Force, basic training, security forces training, Lackland Air Force Base. It all happens in San Antonio, Texas for me. Everybody else got to go different bases. I got stuck in San Antonio. They have Black Flag Days, which means 120 degrees and hotter, just like today here in Arkansas. And the worst part, the trees, that a slight breeze, and you see a yellow cloud. Nothing but pollen. Another benefit to you that have allergy issues with Arkansas, because I know a lot of you probably do have this issue, because I was severely bad. San Antonio, Texas, horrible, horrible allergies. Always snotting, always sneezing, a mess. Colorado, horrible after you get out your 7-month winter. All the ragweed in Colorado, pop an allergy pill in the morning, pop an allergy pill 4 hours later, another 4 hours, another 4 hours. Horrible. I come to Arkansas, I can breathe. It's a wonderful thing. I'm not taking allergy pills. Now, don't let me get you wrong. This year, I think I've taken a total of maybe 6 allergy pills. Maybe 2 days, I took 2 pills to get me by. So 2 days of 2, and then a pill here and a pill there. Very, very, very low allergies here in Arkansas. I love it. I can breathe. My nose isn't all clogged up. I'm not all snotty. Another benefit of humidity. I hate humidity. My hands are not all chapped up. My lips, look at my videos in Colorado. My lips were always chapped. They were scaly. Stuff always coming off. I don't have to wear chapstick all the time here. I don't have to put lotion on. My skin's naturally wet. Since I'm part Italian, I have Olive Garden. No, there's no Olive Garden anywhere close to me, so I don't have Olive Garden. Olive oil all the time, so I don't have sweat coming out. I have olive oil. It just comes out on the drip. So I have natural oily skin. So it's nice. Like I said, there's bad, but there's good. You just got to figure out, where you can survive, what you can do, what you need to go forward, so on and so forth. You are about... Oh yeah, San Antonio is the worst place I've ever lived. I've lived in Pinellas Park, Florida, which is just outside Tampa, west side. I used to go down to Clearwater, St. Pete. It's all the same area. Crystal clear beaches. Used to go out on a boat. I was 15 and 16. Went down there my my sophomore year of high school, because my parents went through a bad divorce. And I would take girls out on a date, and I would save money from mowing yards to get the big tire trikes that you could go out on the water, and you just look down, you see the schools of fishes, the coral, and all that. Beautiful. Like I said, I love the beach. I lived on the beach. I had grass cutting business in Florida. I mean, think of how bad the heat and the humidity was. But at that point in my life, I loved sweating. You take a shower, you step out of the bathroom, and the heat of the house, I mean, you're just right back to sweating. I helped my uncle with construction and stuff like that, putting in paver patios, retaining walls. I had no problem with the heat then. Some people still don't. And another tidbit on traveling and my intuition, my alienness, is prior to 2018, before I had the falling out with the rest of my family, my grandparents' neighbors in Smyrna, Delaware, they had property in Turks and Caicos. I think that's how you say it, down in the islands. While I was back there on vacation seeing family, because once I was able to get a couple additions on my house built, on the house I built in Cotopaxi, and after fighting year after year with the VA, and I've got like 12 or 14 scans of my back and my neck and showing the damage in my back and my neck, that for those of you that are ex-military know, the VA fights you tooth and nail to give you anything, and they're like, you know, you've got to die before you get any benefits. And it took me 11 years, for those of you that don't know, it took me 11 years and one of the senators in Colorado to finally get my disability, because they fought me. When they medical discharged me from the military in Colorado, they gave me 10%. And it would be a couple years, I get another 10%. Another couple years, get another 10%, until I finally got the damage rating on my back and my neck. For those of you that don't know, I don't know if the camera will show, but that big bulge in my neck is from where I ripped my neck out in the military. They don't want to give you anything. Well, I finally got enough money saved up that I could buy a piece of land if I wanted to. And while I was back on family vacation, my grandmother's neighbors were there from the island, and they said they're looking at selling one of their lots in Turks and Caicos. And after going through all the cold winters in Colorado, I was ready to go back to the beach. So I think it was in 2014 or 2015, somewhere in there. It was several years after, you know, I lost everything. I was slowly rebuilding my life back up. That opportunity came in front of me, and I needed a loan to finish getting the rest of the money. And I had looked into it, and I would be right next door to them. It was 137 steps, and I would be in the Gulf or ocean, whatever it was. And something told me not to pull the trigger. And several years later was when whatever big hurricane went through there and devastated, I think, Haiti, Turks and Caicos, and all that. Turks and Caicos got hit straight on. Have no idea, because, you know, I don't talk to my family anymore, so I don't know how any of that fared. But Turks and Caicos is a small island. So it's just those different things that throughout my life, I mean, it happens. Everything mirrors up, and I get these feelings not to go. And there was another place in Arkansas I had looked, I think it was southeast corner. Yeah, I think southeast corner. And last year, it might have been this year, it might have been last year, I'm not 100% sure. The Little Rock tornado that went through Little Rock and did all that devastation and went down to the southeast corner. Intuition, something told me to be here. Even though Steve brought that tornado 2.25 miles from the Homestead when he came out here, the next morning, tornado hits. But something told me come here. And southeast corner has been hit multiple times now, and has had all these massive hailstorms. We have not had massive hailstorms. Marshall, out where the rental house is, they've had massive hailstorm. Some people were putting the photos up of baseballs next to the hail. That happened in Colorado Springs. The Cheyenne Mountain Zoo got devastated. I moved out of Colorado Springs like 6 months before they got all that devastation of the hailstorms in 2011. So it's a thing that's happened for me. I know you guys can't have that predictability like me or that gut intuition because you guys are just humans. But you still got to do your research. You still got to get that feel for it. And just, go with what you feel like and where you want to take it. So it is an hour and 50 minutes in. So I am done ranting, raving, chatting, whatever you want to call it. So I hope everybody enjoyed this episode because I've been having people here for a while making comments and asking questions. So I appreciate you guys being a part of the journey, not just watching, but interacting, picking my mind, asking me questions, things like that. Of course, everybody that calls and emails and text messages and letters and all that type of stuff as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't know you guys would be moving here or looking at moving here. So just because I'm living here, just because I love Arkansas, doesn't mean it's the best fit for you. So take that under consideration. Even if you are looking at moving here, weigh the cons. Don't just weigh the benefits. Yes, it may be cheaper here, taxes are cheaper, but look at the negatives on where you're moving from and things that you might not care for. So with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful upcoming week. If it's hot for you, stay cool. If it's getting cool for you, get your firewood together. Winter is right around the corner. And yeah, get ready. Christmas is coming. I'm getting excited. So with that, live happy, live free. That's the only way to be. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you guys.